listen to me. I'm gonna get off the phone right now, and I am going to let you professionals look at the situation and come back to me with a solution. No matter what, no matter what nobody said. Let's just here and there. Y'all are not working together the right way. We're losing.
The footage is part of a new, highly anticipated docuseries by director Alex Stapleton and rapper and executive producer Curtis 50 Cent Jackson.
Does he know y'all have this in the doc?
I would doubt he knows.
We have There you go, bro.
The moment news broke that a new Netflix docuseries was about to dig deep into the timeline surrounding one of the most controversial figures in entertainment, the entire online world locked in. Social media timelines froze, group chats fired off, and everybody who'd been following the chaos around Diddy knew instantly. This wasn't going to be another watered-down Hollywood recap. This was a series built to drag every dusty rumor, every unspoken accusation, and every messy behind-the-scenes dynamic into the bright light where nobody could pretend they didn't see it. And right in the center of this firestorm stood Misa, the mother of one of Diddy's children who had reached her breaking point.
I think that you really hate Sean Combs.
Why would they be thinking that?
Because of the things that you post on Instagram,
Yeah,
because
this,
of the...
Look at this. And let's stop for a second and do say that I hated him enough to hire his kids. And we've never done anything to each other. So it's just competitive energy and things that you say about other artists while you're in hip-hop culture.
The docu-series didn't just expose old stories, it shook the foundation of every circle connected to him, especially when the narrative started hinting at Gene Deal's role in situations that had already been decades-long talking points. It wasn't long before Misa came charging online, her name trending faster than the Netflix trailer itself, calling out Gene like she had been waiting years for this exact moment. What made the situation even more chaotic was how the docuseries framed Gene's past statements. Gene Deal had been dropping his version of events for years, but with Netflix stepping in, those loose comments suddenly had structure, context, and a platform too big for anyone to ignore. Viewers weren't just hearing Gene, they were hearing editors, investigators, insiders, and industry veterans connecting dots that had been floating separately for far too long. In the middle of it, 50 Cent's name came slicing through the conversation like a blade.
Whether we on a yacht, whether we on a ship, wherever we at, he wants to videotape that, right? So now, they come to agreement. They come to whatever the pay is gonna be. But then it'd be so many hours on that invoice that he don't want to pay.
The series speculated about his long-running tension with Diddy and used archived commentary, interviews, and alleged behind-closed-doors moments that sent every gossip page into meltdown. That's when Misa couldn't hold back any longer.
So now, being if you got a contract and he don't stand to that contract, guess what happens? He could do whatever he want to do with that footage. So now that footage goes to the highest bidder. And 50 had to be the highest bidder to get the, yo, this is business. You know what I'm saying? Everybody ain't in love with you. Everybody ain't dedicated. Everybody ain't loyal to the point of stupidity.
She claimed Gene didn't just accidentally feed the flames, she said he started the fire. She insisted his talking was the reason the docuseries had so much ammunition, and she wasn't letting anyone twist the legacy of people she cared about without pushing back hard. The energy around the show became unlike anything Netflix had touched in the hip-hop space before. It was part investigation, part industry expose, part timeline reconstruction, and full-blown cultural lightning rod. Each episode teased deeper implications, money trails, loyalty fractures, old grudges revived under the glow of 4K streaming, while other documentaries hinted this one named names. It painted a picture of relationships inside Bad Boy that were built on shaky ground, where everybody moved like they were avoiding invisible tripwires. For Misa, watching Gene being positioned as the key eyewitness felt like betrayal. She argued he wasn't telling the truth, that he was chasing attention, and worst of all, that he was feeding narratives that outsiders like 50 Cent amplified for entertainment value. The vibe was no longer just about Diddy. It was about everything and everyone orbiting him, willingly or not. By the time the trailer finished its first 24 hours, it was clear. This wasn't just a Netflix release. This was a cultural event ready to shake reputations apart. What made the situation hit even harder was the history behind the tension. The relationship between Misa and Jean had always been complicated, but the Netflix series ripped open old wounds she'd managed to keep private for years. Jean had always positioned himself as a former insider, someone who saw everything but stayed silent until the industry changed, the era shifted, and he felt he could safely speak out. Once he started talking, he rarely stopped, dropping anecdotes, giving interviews, and painting an image of his time around Diddy as a non-stop whirlwind of chaos, suspicion, and survival. But this time, Jean's commentary wasn't just content for blogs. Netflix stitched his claims directly into their narrative and backed them with dramatic reenactments and interviews from people who had reason to believe him. And to Misa, that crossed the line. She said Jean wasn't just remembering, he was rewriting. She fired off statements accusing him of fueling exaggerated storylines and dragging her child's father deeper into the shadows of the controversy. From her perspective, Jean's version of events didn't just affect Diddy, it affected the entire family tree connected to him. She believed his loose talk made room for outsiders, especially 50 Cent, to twist the narrative for entertainment. And if there's one thing everyone knows about 50, it's that once he gets a hold of a storyline, he puts it on a billboard.
So when this airs, that'll be the first time that his legal team, Diddy, that everybody knows that this footage is now seeing the light of day.
Perhaps.
What was he intending to use it for?
I have no idea what he was doing that for.
The Netflix producers clearly understood that dynamic because they incorporated clips of 50 clowning, commenting, and alluding to insider knowledge like he'd been waiting for the green light to unload. The docuseries used that energy to create tension and suspense, portraying 50 as both an antagonist and an accidental investigator who never missed a chance to poke a bear. Misa wasn't having it. She said Jean's willingness to entertain every platform, every camera, every interviewer gave producers exactly what they needed to make the docuseries as explosive as possible. She accused him of being inconsistent, chasing clout, and twisting old memories into attention-grabbing bombshells. Her reactions weren't quiet either. She went off publicly, and her comments instantly started circulating. People were torn. Some agreed with her, saying Jean had been milking his insider perspective for too long. Others argued he'd been the only one brave enough to tell the truth. But regardless of where you stood, one thing was clear. Her anger wasn't random. It was built on years of history, private conversations, and the emotional cost of watching someone's legacy get dragged through chapter after chapter of online speculation. By the time the series dropped episode 1, the community was already divided into camps. Those who supported the documentary's ambition, those who thought Netflix crossed lines for views, and those who believed Misa was right to call out Gene Deal as the spark that lit the whole narrative. It wasn't just drama, it was a public reckoning, a battle for control over stories that had been floating around the culture for decades, and the streets couldn't look away. As viewers moved deeper into the docuseries, Netflix made it clear they weren't going to let the narrative soften. They showcased the darker corners of the industry using slick editing, crisp audio, and the type of reenactments meant to keep people glued to the screen. The pacing accelerated, and with every reveal, Gene's role became more central. They positioned him as a compass, pointing toward all the unanswered questions. They used his interviews to create momentum, and even though he wasn't the only voice contributing, the audience quickly realized his commentary was the backbone of nearly every dramatic turn.
I'll accept it. I need some hand sanitizer. Hold on. I got it. I've been out in the streets amongst the people. Yeah, I gotta take a bath. Like the amount of people that actually I'm coming in contact with, like that's what I have to do. You know what I'm saying? Oh. It's like 150 hugs.
That triggered even more frustration from Misa. She argued that Gene's commentary wasn't gospel, it was performance. But the part that caused the biggest online eruption was how the docuseries blended Gene's words with archival footage of Diddy, placing his reactions and body language side by side with allegations he never personally addressed. It created a perception of guilt by juxtaposition, not confirmation. Supporters of Diddy felt Netflix crafted a biased angle. Opponents said the documentary finally exposed patterns people suspected for years. Misa, meanwhile, believed Gene's presence tainted the entire production. She said he had a long-standing issue with Diddy and used the platform to settle old scores. In her view, the Netflix team exploited that bitterness for ratings. Complicating matters further was 50 Cent's influence. Though he wasn't officially part of the production, the show kept referencing his old commentary, his public rivalries, and the way he built entertainment empires off exposing the industry. His fingerprints were everywhere, and whether intentional or not, viewers walked away thinking the Netflix team structured large sections of the storyline around the energy 50 created online. It didn't help that 50 started posting reactions as soon as the trailer dropped. He added fuel to the fire, laughing at scenes, shading Diddy, and hinting that this was just the warm-up for something even bigger. The culture ate it up. For Misa, that was the final straw. She said Gene opened the door for 50 Cent's commentary to shape how the public viewed everybody connected to Diddy. And she wasn't wrong. The moment 50 steps into a conversation, the algorithm changes. His influence is undeniable, and Netflix leaned into that reality without officially hiring him. Their editing made viewers feel like he was a ghost narrator floating above the story. That created tension, but also excitement because it blurred the line between journalism and entertainment. By the end of episode 3, the internet was drowning in think pieces, reaction videos, live stream debates, and theories about who was telling the truth. Fans didn't wait for official statements. They judged the characters in real time, creating their own verdicts before the series even finished. Misa's anger became part of the storyline itself, circulating alongside clips from the show. Whether people agreed with her or not, her voice amplified the pressure surrounding Gene Deal, turning him into one of the most polarizing figures in the entire documentary. Episode 4 cracked everything wide open by diving deeper into the tension between Gene and the people who once surrounded Diddy. Netflix brought out witnesses, former associates, journalists, and cultural historians to analyze Gene's claims line by line. They treated his interviews like case files. Every sentence dissected, every facial expression slowed down, every contradiction highlighted with dramatic overlays. The show didn't say Gene lied, but it made viewers question the reliability of a memory shaped by years of distance and emotion. That format turned the docuseries into psychological theater, and Misa called it out immediately. She said Netflix manipulated the narrative by styling Gene as both whistleblower and unreliable narrator at the same time, a duality built to keep audiences hooked. Meanwhile, the producers leaned into the tension with 50 Cent even harder. They weren't using his comments as background color. They treated him like a cultural barometer. Whenever the story touched on themes he previously mocked or criticized, they stitched in clips from radio shows, award show moments, or social media headlines referencing his old jabs. Whether intentional or not, they framed him as someone whose instinct for controversy always seemed to lead him directly into Diddy's orbit, and the audience noticed. Threads popped up saying Netflix made the situation feel like an unofficial battle between two titans, one controlling the legacy, the other clowning the narrative. But in this episode, they also addressed the personal fallout. They showed how these controversies affected families, brands, business partners, and entire communities tied to the music. Misa's name came up repeatedly, not as a central character, but as someone refusing to let her child's father be defined by allegations, interviews, or out-of-context commentary. Netflix didn't paint her as angry for no reason. They showed her fighting to preserve a reputation that had shaped hip-hop for decades. Still, the public latched onto her most fiery comments and turned them into memes, sound bites, and headlines. She became an unexpected symbol of resistance against Gene Deal's storytelling. Gene responded by saying he didn't owe anyone silence, and his truth needed to be told no matter who disliked it. That only escalated things. Some viewers felt sympathy for him, saying he carried secrets that haunted him. Others accused him of opportunism, taking advantage of Netflix's global reach to boost his own relevance. By this point, the series had turned into a cultural Rorschach test. Every viewer saw something different, depending on their loyalty, their biases, and their understanding of hip-hop history. Episode 4 ended with a cliffhanger designed to throw gasoline on the fire. They teased unreleased footage, hinted at new revelations, and promised a deeper exploration of motivations behind decades-long feuds. The internet exploded again, and with every new wave of discussion, Misa's fight against Gene Deal became even more central to how people interpreted the narrative surrounding Diddy. Episode 5 focused on impact, how revelations, allegations, and old wounds have shaped the public's relationship with the entire bad boy legacy. Netflix broke down how narratives evolve over time, how perception becomes reality when repeated enough, and how entertainers become myths in their own right. They used Diddy's career as a blueprint for power, influence, and controversy coexisting in the same space. But they also highlighted how one loose interview, one viral clip, or one insider flipping their loyalty can rewrite everything future generations believe. This was where Gene's role became unavoidable. The producers showcased how his interviews triggered discussions in podcasts, barbershops, media studios, and even legal circles. They pointed out how every time Gene spoke, the culture had to decide whether it believed him or not. That alone gave his voice power. Netflix escalated this by showing how 50 Cent's reactions amplified Gene's claims tenfold. Whenever 50 stepped in, he shifted the narrative from isolated testimony to mainstream spectacle. And whether fair or not, that kind of amplification made Gene's words hit harder than they ever would have on their own. This episode also highlighted Misa's emotional exhaustion. They didn't exploit her pain, they contextualized it. They explained the difficulty of watching someone's father, someone's partner, someone's friend become a character in a media storm built for entertainment consumption. She wasn't defending Diddy's actions, she was defending history from being shaped by voices she felt weren't trustworthy. She blamed Gene not just for speaking, but for speaking without considering the consequences. She said he opened the gate for exaggerations, creative editing, and sensational storytelling to overshadow the real people at the center of these controversies. Netflix didn't take a side, they let the viewers decide. But the way they built the episode made the audience feel the emotional stakes. The tone became heavier, the pacing slowed down. They layered commentary from analysts explaining how difficult it is to separate truth from performance in the entertainment world. They highlighted how personal vendettas, public rivalries, and media bias can merge into a single story that becomes accepted fact. This made the episode feel almost like a mirror, forcing the audience to examine why they believe certain voices over others. It asked unspoken questions about the cost of storytelling and the responsibility of those who choose to share their version of events. By the end of episode 5, viewers were exhausted, overwhelmed, and desperate for answers the show promised to deliver in the finale. And while the docuseries continued unfolding its dramatic arc, Misa and Gene's feud had officially become its own independent storyline outside the show. Their battle wasn't just commentary, it was influencing the public's interpretation of everything Netflix put on screen. The final episode pulled everything together and pushed the tension to its peak. Netflix didn't offer closure, they offered confrontation. Instead of revealing a definitive truth, they showcased the collision of narratives, motives, and memories, letting viewers see how each character's perspective shaped the story. They highlighted how Gene's need to speak clashed with Misa's need to protect. They highlighted how 50 Cent's commentary electrified the conversation, and how Diddy's silence created a vacuum that everyone else wanted to fill. The docuseries framed the situation as a cultural crossroads where history, rumor, loyalty, and ego collided on the world's biggest streaming stage. The finale dug into the psychology behind storytelling itself. It asked whether people speak out to heal or to hurt, to free themselves or to bury someone else. It questioned whether any narrative can ever be trusted once media, memory, and motive get involved. And while they kept everything YouTube safe, they didn't shy away from the messiness that shaped these relationships. They didn't villainize Gene, but they didn't absolve him either. They didn't paint Misa as reactive. They showed her standing guard over a legacy she felt was slipping out of her hands. They didn't portray 50 Cent as malicious. They portrayed him as someone who built an empire on exposing weak spots in the culture. The final scenes showed how the ripple effects extended far beyond the docuseries itself. Fans were left debating. Influencers were creating breakdown videos. Radio stations were arguing live on air. and Hollywood insiders were suddenly revisiting old stories with new skepticism. The series didn't end the conversation, it detonated it. And when Netflix rolled the credits, nobody felt satisfied. That was the point. It wasn't a conclusion, it was a challenge. In the aftermath, the spotlight didn't fade. Misa continued speaking up, doubling down on her belief that Gene Deal had twisted the public narrative for too long. Gene kept defending his right to tell his truth, insisting accountability was overdue. And 50 Cent, as expected, kept stirring the pot. His commentary became the unofficial epilogue to every episode, shaping the memes, the conversations, and the viral moments that kept the docuseries trending. The legacy of this Netflix series wasn't just the information it provided, it was the cultural storm it triggered. It made people rethink the cost of fame, the truth behind loyalty, and the price of being close to power. It exposed how easily stories can be framed, reframed, or weaponized depending on who controls the mic. And it reminded the world that in entertainment, silence speaks just as loudly as confession. This wasn't just a documentary, it was a turning point. It reshaped conversations that had been quietly circulating for years and dragged them into the mainstream with force. And whether viewers walked away believing Gene, defending Misa, siding with 50, or questioning Netflix, one thing was undeniable. The culture wasn't going back to how it was before this series dropped. If you made it this far, make sure to like the video and subscribe because more breakdowns like this are on the way.